Adventures in Wonderland, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Subway. The New York City subway system is like a choose-your-own-adventure novel, except instead of a valiant knight, you're a slightly sweaty tourist with a backpack full of dreams and snacks. One minute you're navigating a labyrinth of tunnels, convinced you've ended up in a subterranean sequel to The Warriors. The next, you're sharing a sardine can-sized space with a mariachi band, a breakdancing teenager, and a woman who may or may not be talking to her pet ferret. And don't even get me started on the smells. But hey, that's part of the charm, right? Where else can you witness raw humanity in all its weird and wonderful glory, all while hurtling towards your destination at a breakneck pace? The trick is to embrace the chaos. Surrender to the fact that you will inevitably end up on the wrong train at least once, that delays are a fact of life, and that personal space is a luxury reserved for the very rich, or those who travel exclusively by private jet. Because once you do, you'll discover that the subway is more than just a mode of transportation. It's a microcosm of the city itself, a melting pot of cultures, characters, and experiences that will leave you breathless, and possibly slightly traumatized, but hey, it's all part of the fun. Empire State of Mind? More like Empire State of Lines. Ah, the Empire State Building, that majestic skyscraper that graces a million postcards and Instagram feeds. It's the quintessential symbol of New York City, a towering testament to human ambition and architectural prowess. It's also, let's be honest, a total tourist trap. Now, don't get me wrong, the views from the top are pretty spectacular, but be prepared to earn those panoramic vistas, my friend. Because first, you gotta navigate the labyrinthine queues. First, there's the line to buy tickets. Then there's the security line, because apparently terrorists have a soft spot for Art Deco architecture. After that, there's the elevator line, which feels like it stretches all the way back to the dawn of time. By the time you finally reach the observation deck, you'll have spent more time waiting in line than a Disney princess auditioning for a role in a Broadway musical. But hey, at least you'll have plenty of time to make new friends, right? Strike up a conversation with the family from Ohio who are wearing matching INY t-shirts. And when you finally do reach the top, well, try to ignore the throngs of other tourists jostling for position and the slightly smudged windows that make your photos look like they were taken through a pair of greasy sunglasses. Central Park, where the wild things are, squirrels mostly. Central Park, that sprawling green oasis amidst the concrete jungle. A place where stressed-out New Yorkers go to escape the hustle and bustle of city life, commune with nature, and maybe get mugged by a squirrel who's really wants your bagel. Okay, the mugging part is a slight exaggeration, usually. But seriously, those squirrels are fearless. They're like the tiny, furry mafia dons of the park, and they ain't afraid of nothing. But squirrels aside, Central Park is pretty great. It's like a choose-your-own adventure in outdoor recreation. Want to go for a leisurely stroll? Check. Rent a rowboat and pretend you're in a Jane Austen novel? Check. Sunbathe in your underwear while listening to opera on your boombox? Sure, why not? This is New York City. Disclaimer, public nudity laws are a thing, so maybe keep your pants on. Times Square, sensory overload, but make it shiny. Times Square, the crossroads of the world. The city that never sleeps is even more caffeinated little brother. It's a dazzling, dizzying spectacle of flashing lights, giant billboards, and enough costume characters to populate a small country. Seriously, it's like someone took all the colors in the world, cranked the saturation up to 11, and threw them at a giant wall. Walking through Times Square is an experience unlike any other. It's overwhelming, it's exhilarating, and it's guaranteed to give you a headache if you stare at the lights for too long. So take a quick stroll through, snap a few photos for Instagram, because did you even go to Times Square if you didn't document it on social media? And then escape to the relative tranquility of a nearby side street. Your sanity will thank you. Listen up, my fellow culture vultures. New York City is a veritable smorgasbord of museums catering to every taste and interest imaginable. Whether you're a history buff, an art aficionado, or just really love miniature models of trains, there's a museum out there with your name on it. Figuratively speaking, of course, unless you happen to be named after a famous philanthropist or something. You've got your classics, like the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where you can wander through centuries of art history, from ancient Egyptian tombs to impressionist masterpieces. Then there are the more quirky and offbeat museums like the Museum of Food and Drink, MoFad, where you can explore the history of food, learn about different cultures through their culinary traditions, and maybe even score a free sample or two. Or the Museum of the Moving Image, where you can geek out over classic movie props, learn about the history of film, and finally settle that age-old debate: who's the better Batman, Michael Keaton or Christian Bale? Spoiler alert, it's totally Michael Keaton. And for those who like their museums with a side of whimsy, there's the City Reliquary, a quirky little museum dedicated to preserving the everyday ephemera of New York City history, from old subway tokens to vintage restaurant menus. Let's talk food, people, because let's be real, that's probably one of the main reasons you're coming to New York City in the first place. And trust me, this city does not disappoint. From Michelin-starred restaurants to hole-in-the-wall gems, New York City is a culinary melting pot where you can find pretty much anything your heart or stomach desires. First things first, you gotta have pizza. It's practically a legal requirement in New York City. And no, I'm not talking about that sad, soggy excuse for pizza you get from your local chain restaurant back home. I'm talking about thin-crust, foldable, perfectly cheesy New York-style pizza. But pizza is just the tip of the iceberg, my friend. From spicy Sichuan noodles in Chinatown to soul-warming pho in Little Saigon, New York City is a culinary adventure waiting to be devoured. So loosen your belt, grab your appetite, and get ready to eat your way through the 5 boroughs. One of the best things about New York City is that it's not just one city. It's like a bunch of little villages, each with its own distinct personality and vibe. Take Greenwich Village, for example. Once a haven for beatniks and bohemians, it's now a charming mix of cozy cafes, independent bookstores, and overpriced vintage clothing stores. Then there's Chinatown, a bustling neighborhood where you can find everything from delicious dim sum to knockoff designer handbags. Just be prepared to haggle, because bargaining is practically a national sport in Chinatown. And let's not forget Harlem, a neighborhood steeped in history and culture. You can catch a jazz show at the Apollo Theater, indulge in some soul food at Sylvia's restaurant, and soak up the vibrant street life. Listen up, theater nerds and musical theater enthusiasts. Broadway is calling your name, and it's singing a siren song that's hard to resist. Because let's be real, there's nothing quite like seeing a Broadway show. The glitz, the glamour, the sheer talent on display, it's enough to make you want to quit your day job and join the circus, or at least audition for community theater. But be warned, my friend, Broadway tickets ain't cheap. From classic musicals like The Phantom of the Opera and The Lion King to cutting-edge new works, there's something for everyone on Broadway. Just be sure to book your tickets in advance, because shows tend to sell out quickly, especially if Lin-Manuel Miranda is involved. That guy's a genius, what can I say? And if you're feeling really fancy, splurge on a pre-show dinner at one of the many restaurants in the theater district. Calling all shopaholics and lovers of all things retail therapy. New York City is a shopper's paradise, a veritable mecca of consumerism, where you can find everything from high-end designer boutiques to quirky independent shops. Just be sure to bring your credit cards, because you're gonna need them. First things first, you gotta hit up Fifth Avenue. It's like the Rodeo Drive of the East Coast, where you can find all the big-name designers, from Gucci to Prada to Tiffany & Company. But New York City's shopping scene is about so much more than just designer labels. You've got Soho with its trendy boutiques and independent designers. And you've got Williamsburg with its vintage shops and artisanal goods. Just be sure to wear comfortable shoes, because you're going to be doing a lot of walking. New York City, my friends, is a place where the strange and the wonderful collide on a daily basis. It's a city that never sleeps, never ceases to amaze, and never fails to provide endless fodder for cocktail party anecdotes. Because let's be real, you haven't truly experienced New York City until you've witnessed its unique brand of urban weirdness. Like the time I saw a man walking his pet iguana on a leash in Central Park, or the time I got stuck on the subway next to a guy who was convinced he was a reincarnated Egyptian pharaoh. Or the time I witnessed a breakdancing Santa Claus battling a beatboxing Elmo for tips in Times Square. But it's not just the people that make New York City so wonderfully weird. It's the little things too. Like the fact that you can find a bodega on practically every corner, open 24 hours a day, selling everything from milk and eggs to condoms and cigarettes. So there you have it, folks. A whirlwind tour of New York City as seen through the slightly skewed lens of yours truly. It's a city that's loud, it's chaotic, it's always on the go. It's a city that will chew you up and spit you out if you let it. But it's also a city that will surprise you, charm you, and ultimately capture your heart. New York City is a place where dreams are made of, where anything is possible, and where you can be whoever you want to be. It's a city that will challenge you, inspire you, and ultimately change you. So what are you waiting for? Book that ticket, pack your bags, and come experience the magic for yourself. Just maybe invest in a good map, and for the love of all that is holy, hold on to your MetroCard.